All right, everyone, we start off today with Devon Archer's testimony, of course. That occurred yesterday. Well, it's still late today for people on the West Coast in the U.S. By the way, the cat goes out in the rain, then she comes over here to roll around and dry off, and then she goes back out in the rain again. I've got a very weird co-host, very odd pets. Anyway, looking at the testimony, you can interpret it one of two ways, basically. And that's why the Republicans probably should not get particularly distracted by what Devon Archer is saying when you already have a slam dunk against Joe Biden with regards to pressuring the Ukrainian authorities to get rid of Viktor Shulkin. He bragged about that publicly. We know that it happened. It was contemporary to the time when, according to Devon Archer, this is the only real importance of the testimony, Biden was routinely being brought onto speakerphone conversations by Hunter. Now, Devon Archer claims, this is in his testimony, that at least 20 times this occurred. So Joe Biden was brought on by Hunter to shoot the shit with Burisma executives and stuff in order to basically to puff up his own repartee. Of course, the backstory is that Hunter Biden was acting as an $80,000 a month advisor to an energy company without any experience in the energy industry. It is therefore fairly apparent why he was chosen for that role, and it was because of his dad. Hunter Biden favors himself an artist, not really a key negotiator or something like that. Makes no particular claim of having knowledge about the nuclear energy industry or anything like that. And so the very fact that he was there in the first place is a red flag. The fact that Joe was being brought aboard calls itself doesn't matter depending on the content of those calls, not even necessarily illegal actually. Another reason for the Republicans to basically just dovetail it with the more important part, which is that Viktor Shulkin was canned around the same time. According to Devon Archer, the conversations were all very pedestrian. It was talking about the weather. What did you eat last night? Well, I had lobster. I had some scallops. They were great. And stuff like that. Now, I have a feeling that there's some funny business here. It doesn't really make sense that Joe Biden would just be brought on the call for 10 minutes to shoot the shit to impress the Burisma executives that had already put Hunter on the board. It wouldn't make sense. There's no reason for him to bother flexing. Maybe once or twice. Why would he have to do it 20, 30 times? So there's something rotten in Denmark. But when we look at it in totality, as opposed to just what Devon Archer is claiming, which is, Joe was brought on call to create the illusion of access by Hunter. I don't believe that. I think that when you look at the very real pressuring of the Ukrainian authorities to drop Viktor Shulkin as part of a corruption investigation, which magically absolves the company that his son is getting 80 grand a month from in the process, I mean, doesn't that reek of nepotism? Doesn't that seem at least a little bit suspicious to people? The Devon Archer testimony is almost more of a distraction in the end, with the exception of the fact that it corroborates, it's another witness, corroborating the fact, and then this is a long-term friend of Hunter Biden, is his business partner. It corroborates that at the same time that what we know already happened, Joe Biden was in communication with Burisma. It doesn't matter whether the context of those calls were all pedestrian. Devon Archer also fails to understand, perhaps, that it's entirely possible that without Devon Archer physically there, Hunter was also holding calls and there may have been other conversations. We can't prove that one way or another without necessarily subpoenaing digital materials that probably by now have been, they've been bleached, they've been acid washed, as Hillary Clinton would put it. I think that Joe Biden definitely broke the law. We know this with the Viktor Shulkin thing. The Devon Archer testimony doesn't really do anything other than help corroborate the Shulkin aspect of it. And that's really where Republicans, if they're smart, they're going to venture as they gather more testimony potentially, as maybe more whistleblowers come forward, etc. That's where they should pretty much focus their efforts, not so much on Archer himself. Now Devon Archer's probably going off to jail, although depending on the incoming administration, he might get some leniency. He'll probably get, ultimately in the end, it'll probably be more fine related than anything else anyway. The circuit court revived charges that had already been thrown out against him, which is also kind of weird. It's almost like they wanted to shut him up. But the problem, this is the problem. Republicans are great at taking defeat from the jaws of victory. They're really good at shooting themselves in the foot. They're really good at trying to throw down a banana peel to trip up their foe, and then they end up tripping on the banana peel. It's like watching an old silent comedy film or something. It's like a Charlie Chaplin bit. Republicans are terrible at actually following through. Hell, even Donald Trump sometimes has this problem. 100 times a debate, he has the option of choosing to knock somebody out and typically doesn't actually take it. He whirlwinds off into another topic. And he's one of the better Republicans when it comes to actual strategic effectiveness. The Republicans, therefore, are more likely to get bogged down than they are to actually put two and two together and simply make a very simple case to the American people. This is all you have to do. We know that Joe Biden pressured Ukraine. He did that very publicly. He acknowledged this. He pressured Viktor Shulkin to be fired by the Ukrainian authorities, to be taken out of being a prosecutor. Contemporary to that time, based on Hunter Biden's own business partner working with him with Burisma and all of these other ventures, we now have testimony saying that Joe was talking to the people there that were being investigated at the time, or pre-investigation for some time, by Shulkin, contemporary to the same thing happening. That's the worth of the testimony. Will they make that connection and simply tell the American people in like 5 or 6 sentences, that's all you need to describe what happened, what actually occurred, and why the Archer testimony is important? Right now, you see a shit ton of wagons circling by the legacy media and by the Democrats at large. They sprung on it immediately to get ahead of the news cycle. They tried yesterday as well with the DOJ's confusing double message with regards to Archer and his upcoming potential arrest or surrender to the prison authorities, etc., etc. They've gobbled the news cycle down, and the Republicans, other than some MAGA Republicans, like a Gates or Boebert or something, they tend to lag behind. And so the news cycle will be dominated by Devon Archer claims that Joe Biden never discussed business with the people that his son was in business with. It was all Hunter's idea. For his own ego's sake, he brought Daddy on the phone 20 or so times on numerous occasions just to show that he had access to Daddy. But don't worry, everyone in America, they never actually discussed any business, thus violating the law. But that's not the importance. It doesn't matter what he was discussing. He's talking to the Burisma authorities at the same time that he's pressuring Ukraine to get rid of Viktor Shulkin. The second he's in office, Russia invades Ukraine, and all of a sudden hundreds of billions of dollars are moving into the country. Wow, what a coincidence. It's almost like all of this fits together somehow and isn't entirely coincidental. But will the Republicans actually be intelligent enough and strategic enough to make that case to the American people before the news cycle is simply swamped by preemptive propaganda telling people the Devon Archer testimony is absolutely meaningless because he confirmed that Joe never discussed business with the people in business with his son. It was just about the weather and what they ate and things like that. I don't believe that. Also, separately make the case. While Devon Archer's testimony proves that Joe was in communication with the firm being investigated by Viktor Shulkin when he pressured the Ukrainian authorities, we don't know if there weren't more calls because Devon Archer clearly doesn't follow Hunter Biden around like a little puppy and always monitor his phone usage. It's entirely possible that there were other calls made without witnesses present, and you're probably not going to be able to know that unless you drag Hunter Biden before Congress and subpoena a bunch of shit, which the Republicans probably don't have the capability, let alone the willpower to do. We'll see how this plays out. We know that crimes were committed. We know Hunter Biden's a career criminal, basically. His daddy is the same. Now, the apple didn't fall far from the tree. It's just a matter of making the case to people so that you can get your impeachment inquiry and then dive deeper. You will find more if you investigate deeper, but you have to have the willpower to take the plunge, and the GOP would be nuts not to do so at this time. You have a cut and dry case already of political incest with regards to the Bidens and Burisma over the prosecutor's case and the pressuring of Ukraine. You then can dovetail that with all of these other things, but you can't get bogged down in the process, and Republicans are pretty good at getting bogged down Iraq War style. That's about all. Peace out.